The letter was beige. Of course it was beige. In Harmony Creek, even the threats came in beige, thick cardstock fancy print, that passive-aggressive kind of beige that whispers, "I'm official, and I'm here to ruin your day." It wasn't even in my mailbox. Someone had wedged it right into my front door like a personal insult. And there it was, a $500 fine for aggressive landscaping. Aggressive. They actually used that word. My name is Frank McMichael, 42, working stiff father homeowner and proud owner of a patchy front lawn filled with sunflowers, lavender, and a red garden gnome my daughter painted in 2nd grade. Aggressive landscaping. My daisies weren't mugging mailmen. My sunflowers weren't running protection rackets on the porch squirrels. But in Harmony Creek, our so-called covenant-protected community joy itself was a violation. See, our HOA president, Brenda Hernandez, didn't believe in color. Her yard was sterile. 2 tortured bushes, a gray gravel desert, 1 joyless decorative rock. And she ruled the neighborhood like a beige dictator. Every month, she'd patrol with her clipboard and ruler pretending to be the sheriff of suburbia. A week before that fine, she'd stood on the sidewalk squinting at my sunflowers. "Frank," she said in that syrupy tone that made your skin crawl, "your plants are overreaching." I blinked. "Overreaching, Brenda, they're flowers, not invaders. The bylaws," she said, tapping her clipboard, "prefer order. Clean lines make happy neighbors." "Maybe the bees like messy lines," I muttered. Her smile thinned. "You have 1 week to comply." And now here I was holding a $500 fine because my garden dared to be alive. I looked across the street at her gravel wasteland, and something inside me just snapped. "You want order, Brenda? You want compliant? Fine, I'll give you the cleanest, most orderly yard you've ever seen, and you're gonna regret it." That night, I poured a beer, opened the 300-page HOA rulebook, and made it my mission. Somewhere between mailbox height standards and approved Halloween decorations, I found it Section 7B. Residents are encouraged to adopt native drought-resistant plants and non-organic ground cover. Encouraged, drought-resistant, native plants. In Texas, that meant one thing. Cacti, sharp, spiky, and born to say, "Get the hell off my lawn." I smiled. She wanted compliance, I'd give her compliance. By 2 a.m., I was on the phone with a nursery called Spike's Point. "Yeah," I said, pacing my kitchen. "I need the nastiest cactus you've got, the kind that sends people to the ER for a tetanus shot." The guy on the other end just grunted. "You want golden barrels or agave?" "Both. And a saguaro. 12 feet tall. Make it loom." He hesitated. "Sir, that's like 10 grand. You need a crane for that." "Perfect," I said. "Thursday delivery." When the trucks arrived, it was like D-Day for landscaping. A flatbed with the 12-foot saguaro, another with 3 tons of sharp gray gravel, and a backhoe operated by a man the size of a refrigerator. I sat on my porch sipping coffee, watching the carnage. My cheerful flowers were torn from the ground like invaders being exiled. Right on cue, Brenda stormed across the street, beige tracksuit blinding in the sun. "Frank, what is the meaning of this? You're creating a dust bowl." I raised my mug. "Morning, Brenda. Just redecorating." "Redecorating?" she sputtered. "You've scalped your yard." "Relax," I said, pointing at the trucks. Section 7B, drought-resistant landscaping. The HOA encourages it. I'm saving water, being environmentally conscious. You should be thanking me. Then the crane lifted my saguaro into the air, a 12-foot middle finger of compliance. Its shadow stretched across the street, falling perfectly on her gravel yard. Brenda's jaw dropped. This is hostile," she gasped. "No," I said, grinning. "This is efficient." When the work was done, my yard looked like a desert apocalypse. Gray gravel spikes and that towering saguaro glaring down at her house like a watchtower. I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I went to the hardware store and bought every warning sign I could find. Private property, no trespassing, danger biohazard, and my favorite, warning severe tire damage. I even had one custom-made beware of plants. I hammered them in around the cacti one by one until my yard looked like Area 51. 2 days later, another letter, this one bright red. Emergency HOA meeting. Violation, nuisance, and annoyance. The meeting hall was packed. Brenda stood at the front with her gavel like she was presiding over a trial. I sat in the front row with my printed binder of bylaws, sticky notes poking out like a lawyer from hell. "Mr. McMichael," she said, voice trembling with fury, "your yard is an eyesore. Children are afraid to walk by. It's aggressive, unwelcoming." "Ah," I interrupted, "aggressive. We're back to that word again. Funny, you fined me for aggressive flowers, so I replaced them with compliant, drought-resistant plants. Exactly what the HOA encourages." She slammed her gavel. "This isn't what the rule intended. Intention doesn't matter, Brenda. Wording does. And unless your bylaws specifically ban spikes, I'm in the clear." Even Gary, one of her board members, nodded. "He's technically right." She glared at him like she wanted to erase him from existence. "This isn't over," she hissed. I smiled, looking forward to round 2. A week later, round 2 arrived, this time with sirens. I saw the police lights flashing outside my window and nearly choked on my sandwich. 2 officers stepped out, carefully navigating my gravel path. One was older, calm, the other young, and by the book. "Sir," the older one said, "we got a call about booby traps." I blinked. "Booby traps? You mean the plants?" "The caller stated you'd installed weapons in your yard," the rookie added, serious as a sermon. "Officers," I said, gesturing grandly. "These are native cacti. Stationary, non-lethal, though I wouldn't recommend hugging them. Perfectly legal." The older cop rubbed his eyes. "And the signs, severe tire damage. You can see how that might sound threatening." I smiled. "They're warnings. My gravel's sharp. I'm just looking out for public safety. Frankly, I'm a hero." He sighed. "You're not breaking any laws, Mr. McMichael. This sounds like an HOA problem." "Oh, it is," I said, glancing at Brenda's window. The blinds twitched. When they left, I waved. "Stay safe out there, officers. It's a jungle." That night, I sat on my porch staring at my fortress of spikes, and for the first time I felt tired. Maybe Brenda was right. Maybe I'd gone too far. My yard looked like a war zone. Neighbors whispered. Kids avoided me. I wondered if I'd become exactly what I hated, a petty, stubborn man fighting for pride instead of peace. But then I looked at that beige letter pinned to my corkboard. Aggressive landscaping. The words glared back at me like a dare. No, I thought. I wasn't wrong. I was standing up to a bully who hid behind bylaws and beige stationery. And so when the next red letter came, I was ready. Emergency HOA meeting. Vote on Amendment 7C. Brenda's final play. The new rule would ban any plant with spikes over 1 inch, outlaw crushed gravel, and force soft, non-threatening landscaping. She'd written it for one reason: to erase my yard. That night, the room was packed again. Brenda looked confident, smug even. "This amendment will protect our children, our pets, and our property values," she said, practically glowing. All in favor. I stood up. "Before you vote, I'd like to say something." Brenda smiled sweetly. "Frank, unless you've suddenly developed good taste, I doubt there's anything you can say." "Oh, I think you'll want to hear this." I held up a sheet of paper. "See, I called the HOA's insurance company, and I asked them what happens if a neighborhood bans what's known as defensive landscaping, cacti, agave, thorny hedges. You know what they said? Removing proven security features raises liability by 40%. The room went dead silent. I looked around. 40% premium increase. That's about $200 a month per household. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. $200 a month, someone shouted. I can't afford that. Brenda slammed her gavel. He's lying. This is about aesthetics. No, I said, stepping closer. This is about money. You pass this amendment and we all pay for your personal vendetta. The room erupted. Her allies turned on her instantly. Even Gary raised his hand. We can't afford this, Brenda. All in favor of Amendment 7C, she called desperately. No one moved. All opposed. Every hand went up. Brenda just stood there, frozen gavel trembling in her hand. For the first time, she looked small, powerless. Her beige empire had fallen apart not because I shouted louder, but because her neighbors finally saw her for what she was. I gathered my binder, nodded to the crowd, and said quietly, well, this was productive. I walked out before anyone could say a word. Now, 6 months later, my yard still stands a monument to spite and paperwork. The saguaro, which I named Brenda's Bane, looms proudly over the street. The golden barrels gleam in the sun. The agave glisten like weapons. And Brenda. She still lives across from me, still president in name only, but the power's gone. She doesn't wave. She doesn't even look up. Her gravel's getting patchy these days. Sometimes new neighbors stop by, curious. Just last week, a guy named Ted moved in down the street. He came over holding a beer wide-eyed and said, "Man, what's with your yard?" I pointed to the wooden sign near my walkway, the one carved in clean HOA-approved font. It says, "The Aggressive Garden." Long story, I told him, handing him a beer. But it starts with a beige letter. Because in neighborhoods like ours, sometimes the only way to win is to weaponize the rules.